I've been trophy hunting for the last several years, but despite that, I've neglected one key area, the backlog. The list of games that you have or want but have never completed. On PSNProfiles, I have 195 games played, but only 84 of them are actually completed 100%, with an overall completion percentage of 64.38%. I definitely needed to do something about that, hence the purpose of creating this video. Here, I'll be tackling 3 games in order to complete them and increase my trophy percentage. I'm also hoping that doing this will give me a greater appreciation for those games overall. Let's do this. The first game is one that I'm already familiar with in a short hike. I will be honest, I do own this game across multiple platforms, and I've gotten 100% for it on said platforms, so it's definitely a crime that I haven't done the same yet for the PS4 version of it. This also made it the perfect candidate for being the first game for the backlog video. This game has 13 trophies including the platinum. It's an open world game with a simple premise. For the main story, all I have to do is reach the top of the island in order to get cell phone reception, but how I get there is entirely up to me. It's definitely a game that's more about the journey rather than the final destination. Most of the trophies involve doing certain activities on the island, but given how this game is structured, I'm not expecting it to be too much hassle. This is the smallest open world game I've ever played, and that is actually a good thing. Not just because the time to platinum this game will be shorter, but also nothing in this game feels wasted. At no point did I ever feel like I was wasting my time. Most open world games will often pad out the runtime with tedious activities, not in a short hike. Anyway, back to the platinum journey. After a brief intro, we're thrown straight into the game. From here, it's simply explore and reach the top of the mountain in your own time. It should be noted that the main collectible of this game are the feathers that are scattered across the island. This gives us the ability to fly and glide, which is necessary to reach the higher areas of the mountain. We'll need to find a minimum of 7 to reach the peak, but in order to obtain the platinum, I'll need to find all of them, which are the 20 golden feathers and the 2 silver feathers. Given that I'm already familiar with this game, there aren't many surprises I'm worried about. Some of the feathers are out in the open, while others require doing particular tasks for NPCs. This game's main incentive for exploration, and I'm fine with that. So, after taking control of the main character, I simply pick a direction and go off exploring. About 20 minutes in, and with a few feathers found, I got my first trophy for finding a commemorative hat after playing some beach stick volleyball. And shortly afterwards, more trophies popped. One for finding 10 feathers, another for completing the boat challenge under 45 seconds. Eventually, having found 18 feathers, I decided to reach the peak for the first time and wrap up the story. I'll have to go back up again for another trophy later on, so this isn't the end of this section. After engaging in the cutscene and flying back down, I engaged in some parkour races, which results in the final race that ends at the mountain peak, and another trophy to go with it. Afterwards, I returned back to the place where the game started, engaged in one final conversation before hitting the hay and popping the final story trophy. From here, the rest of the platinum journey was about finding the remaining feathers and doing a handful of miscellaneous tasks. The only trophy that I found somewhat tedious was the fishing trophy. We have to catch every type of fish and trade it with the fishermen for rewards. The only issue is not every fish counts towards the journal, so there was a little frustration. Luckily, the number of fish required wasn't that big, so this task went by relatively quickly in comparison to other open world games. And eventually I popped the trophy for this activity too. There was also one specific time-related trophy where I had to be in a particular place at 5 PM real-world time. It's a bit bizarre but not difficult, and after all that we're rewarded with is a piece of toast. That was the penultimate trophy. The only one left was to get my photo taken at the top of the mountain with another NPC you meet along the way. So I headed back to the peak and took the final photo. The final trophy popped, the platinum trophy popped, and my journey was over. With this game. Overall, this was an enjoyable journey. A Short Hike is one of my favourite indie games of all time, and I'm glad to finally get the platinum on it. It took me just over 3 hours to get the platinum, but might take longer for a first-time player. Low-key, I think it's one of the best open-world games of all time, and I definitely plan on replaying it again many times in the future. It's also quite cheap, so you'll get better value for money in my opinion. Anyway, the first Backlog platinum is down. Time to move on to the next one.
Everything I've done for you.
A Thousand Times Resist is one of the most unique games I've ever played. It very much falls under the weird game category in the way it plays out. The story juggles multiple themes including religion, death, and societal norms, and value amongst many others. And in my opinion, it does it well. But what about the Platinum Trophy? Well, A Thousand Times Resist has 33 trophies including the Platinum. These can be separated into 4 categories: story trophies for completing each chapter, trophies for the various endings, exploration trophies for finding all the monuments in the hub area, and interaction trophies for talking to all the NPCs in specific chapters. It's a fairly recent game, so I won't spoil the story. However, I will be showing footage from late game areas if that bothers you at all. Given that this game is also much more story driven than A Short Hike, I decided to take my time to absorb it all. Let's get into the game. I complete the prologue and automatically unlock a trophy for doing so. Then I begin Chapter 1, and we're thrown into something completely different at first, until it is eventually revealed that the main character Watcher is undergoing a communion, which in this game is exploring the memories of the past through another character called Iris. There are a few more communion-related chapters, but as far as the game's narrative goes, not everything will necessarily make sense until near the end when all the pieces come together. But there are video essays dissecting that aspect. I completed Chapter 1 to pop a trophy, however I do miss a chapter-specific trophy that I'll have to come back to later.
To the All-Mother.
Luckily there is a chapter select, so it's not a big loss. Chapter 2 is where we enter the orchard for the first time, which is this game's main hub area. As per the trophy requirements discussed earlier, I obtained a handful of trophies for finding most of the monuments hidden in the orchard.
Red to blue surface one day.
Eventually, I would complete the chapter by performing another communion, which unlocked another story trophy. Once again, I missed a chapter-specific trophy due to missing one NPC to talk to. So, like Chapter 1, I'll have to come back later for that. I started Chapter 3, and this time I was able to get the chapter-specific trophy for talking to all the NPCs.
Another one out of order? Is the chamber broken?
And then I was able to finish the chapter without much issue for another trophy. Chapter 4 went exactly like Chapter 3, with both the chapter-specific trophy and the story trophy popping. Once again, I finished a communion which revealed key information about Iris. Chapter 5 was around the halfway point of the story. It was also a lot more linear and story-driven, which leads to key developments and revelations regarding particular characters. This all culminates in Watcher doing what she did in the opening cutscene. This time I had the information behind why she did what she did. We eventually popped a trophy upon completing this chapter. On the trophy list, the remaining story trophies are hidden, but without spoiling it, from a structural point of view, the second half of the game follows a similar format to the first. In the next chapter, I get the chapter-specific trophy as well as finding the last monument in the orchard to complete that set.
Sounded like an invisible person trying to get my attention.
Also, there is no one but 2 story trophies that are unlocked in this chapter that contribute heavily to the main narrative. The next few trophies that pop afterwards are all story trophies for specific chapters. In the penultimate chapter, I pop one more chapter-specific trophy for talking to all the NPCs in that chapter.
This is the one. Thanks, Iris.
before completing key actions that set up the finale, and I obtain another story trophy. Before the credits rolled, I completed the final chapter and acquired the first of several endings. This in turn unlocked a couple of trophies. The endings are based on one decision you make towards the end, and there is chapter select. So it's not much time wasted to go back and change my decisions to get each ending and every trophy that comes with it.
You to see someone other than me for once.
At this point, there were only 3 trophies still to obtain, and they were all chapter-specific trophies related to talking to all the NPCs in specific chapters. A couple of those trophies were ones I mentioned earlier in chapters 1 and 2. With the knowledge I had now, those were easily attainable, and I unlocked them relatively quickly.
We're not your place.
You're mad.
I'm not.
Or two, don't tease me.
The final chapter-specific trophy was the one in the later chapters, but the criteria and method were the same as the others. I was a lot more thorough this time and was able to complete the requirements. The final trophy popped, the platinum trophy popped, and my journey was over for this game. It's really difficult to give a proper summary of this game without spoiling it, and to be honest, it's one of those games where I would almost say that the less you know about it, the better. But as I said earlier, it definitely falls under the weird game category. A lot of what this game does is quite unconventional compared to other games. As a result, it's actually more difficult to recommend this compared to something like A Short Hike. However, the actual platinum journey itself isn't too difficult. For me, it was definitely worth it, but tastes can vary. If you think this game looks interesting and you're thinking of checking it out, I would say go for it. Alright, on to the final game. Neva is one of the most uniquely gorgeous games I've ever played. It's made by the same developers as Grease, a game I platinumed a few years back. And just a heads up, Neva follows a similar format to Grease. The game follows a show don't tell approach when it comes to conveying its themes. Those themes include parenthood and the cycle of life and death. This is shown in the game's story, which follows a young woman and a pet wolf called Neva, as they try to stop the corruption that spreads throughout the land. As far as the platinum journey goes, the game has 19 trophies, including the platinum, and can be divided into 2 categories, those being the story trophies for specific chapters, and chapter-specific collectibles. There is also a chapter select, so I'll be able to backtrack for the cleanup for another of those collectibles that I miss. So, like Grease, I wasn't expecting too much of an issue. This first playthrough was more focused on sitting back and enjoying the story for what it is. The game itself takes place over 1 year, and can be divided into 4 parts based on the 4 seasons. Given that this was also a recent game, I won't spoil the plot, but there will be some late game visuals. The game quickly introduces its mechanics, and unlike Grease, Neva contains combat which will be required for a few trophies. The combat itself doesn't have much depth, but given that the game is only a few hours long, it doesn't need to be. As the year progresses, we see the young woman and Neva tackle the darkness that engulfs the land. During this time, Neva starts off as a cub, but we gradually see her grow over time, hence the theme of parenthood. After learning the mechanics and completing the first season of summer, we pop a couple of trophies. In the early stages of autumn, I pop a couple of chapter-specific trophies for petting and soothing Neva. Most of the chapter-specific trophies are initially hidden, so it's difficult to tell what is required. In hindsight, it was actually a bit frustrating as I wasn't too far off attaining most of them, but it wasn't a deal breaker. As the seasons progressed and as I gradually got closer to the end, I popped several of the remaining story trophies along the way. Overall, the story does have a satisfying build-up and payoff, and it definitely conveys its themes well enough to understand, so I'm glad about that. On to the other trophies. It was time to go to chapter select and clean up the remaining ones. Each chapter has an additional trophy with a specific requirement. Some are related to the gameplay, others to combat. None of these were difficult, but some were tedious, as a few requirements were quite well hidden in the background. Meanwhile, I was also keeping an eye out for the collectibles in the form of the glowing flowers that appear throughout the game, which will be required for a trophy. Again, most of them aren't too difficult, as it's more about being able to utilize the gameplay you've learnt along the way. One by one, the remaining trophies popped, and as I completed the requirements, until eventually only one remained. And it was pretty simple, just requiring me to sing under a tree. I did that, and the final trophy popped, the platinum popped, and my journey was over. After all of that, what's changed? My trophy percentage increased from 64.38% to 64.90%. Of course, not much change, but I'm happy with the increase overall. I want to continue with this going forward, so I've set a current goal of reaching 70% as the next target. Overall, I enjoyed doing this challenge. Despite a little bit of tedium, I was able to appreciate the games I played more than I did previously, and increasing my overall completion percentage was a nice bonus as well. I can't deny the satisfaction in that. Anyway, thank you for watching, you absolute legends, and good luck on your gaming journey. Be sure to like and subscribe.